Radio Network headquarters.
A year ago, we were a dead country. And now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world.
It's your morning addiction.
But we were able to use our tools and build evidence that's usable in a court of law.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
People are being squeezed across America.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
A tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually.
Well, President Trump announcing that a tanker off the coast of Venezuela carrying allegedly some sanctioned oil to foreign countries, unknown, was seized yesterday by the Coast Guard as things heat up there in a country very close to us with what are said to be the largest oil reserves on the planet. Don't know where he's going with this. He keeps saying there's more. We don't know what that more is. We'll be following that. If anything breaks, of course, we'll let you know. We don't want to, around the holidays, put any of our folks, well, anytime, but especially around the holidays, we don't want to ignite any kind of kinetic action, but hopefully this is just a one-and-done operation. We'll have to see where it's all going. The Fed rate cut by 0.25% yesterday. Trump gold cards are out. So we have a lot of news nationally. Locally, there was an announcement of a big distribution center here in Columbia, so lots to talk about. But I think, Stephanie Bell, we should talk about the AI town hall last night. A lot of folks from the Wake Up family were in our conference room here at the Zimmer World headquarters. It was quite interesting. Cindy O'Loughlin, of course, Senate President Pro Tem, and Tim Marshevsky, who is the AI Innovation Director. The director of AI and innovation. You did. Right to his face, you did. He didn't wince too much. He said among his peer group across the nation, others are called chief and so forth. So there's different names for him. It was really interesting. It was a wide-ranging discussion from data centers and their impact, potentially negative, potentially positive on various communities, as well as the impact on Missouri state government. I think that was a real thread that you followed with Tim for a while.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, we talked a little bit about how you and I tend to disagree slightly, and that I see it as more of an opportunity. You see it more as a threat. But certainly for Tim, who is charged with kind of implementing it at the state, how are we going to use these tools in a responsible way to make state government more efficient? If businesses are out there using this, how can we make the state more like a business? And, it was good to hear him. He kind of talked about how they're doing some pilot programs and the changes are incremental. And they've still got lots of people overseeing not only the programs themselves, but subject matter experts that are checking the answers and making sure the information that's being returned from these tools is accurate. But they are, they're not hands off, right? They're not saying we're never going to use this. They're trying to figure out how can we use this in a way that benefits all of Missourians. Yeah. And I think that was really good to hear.
It was good to hear that it's almost like a different animal in terms of some of the security safeguards, and it operates under a different tenant, he said, rather than the free and open ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini that we use, and that they really are taking sort of some baby steps, tiptoeing through this and using it. How can it improve? If it doesn't improve your workflow, dear state worker at whatever level, we got to rethink it, right? It's not just to introduce it because it's a bright, new, shiny object, and it's not to introduce it without a lot of safeguards. And he said, what was interesting,
military grade.
Yeah, military.
Yeah.
And when I asked him, about that, but then he was talking about how it's not like going to think. It's not meant to be doing a lot of thinking. It sounds like it's sort of like an accountant function in many ways. It's going to look at data and then organize the data in a way that a human being would do it, but do it quicker. I didn't hear it doing a lot of inductive reasoning and policy making and stuff like that, right? No. It's not in that sense at all.
No, and I think that's what we've heard before when we've talked to some AI experts. We had one of my friends who's heavily involved in the tech world, and he said, we're not seeing it replace, I think Jerry said, we're not seeing it replace like level 1 jobs. We're seeing it replace like level 0 jobs, right? And I gave an example. I had pulled some data off of a state website. It was in a PDF. Totally unhelpful, right? And I was able to drop that PDF into AI and say, give me a spreadsheet. I need to run some calculations on this. And, normally I would print out the spreadsheet. I would walk it to my paralegal. I would say, hey, please type this in, or I would type it in myself, hoping that I didn't commit any human errors in typing in the data and make a typo, right? And in a minute, it said, here's your spreadsheet. And I said, great. So those types of things are, I think, really beneficial. And again, I don't think it's displacing anyone's job. I'm not firing my paralegal because she doesn't type in the data that I needed. She's just able to do higher level things that I actually need her to do. And we can use AI to generate a chart.
That was a great example. And he said that's exactly the kind of thing that they actually are doing in areas where it makes sense early on, pretty easy to implement, and they do it. And again, the data is not, going on to some office in Google where everyone can be at it. I mean, it's all encrypted and all very, very safe.
Yeah,
and of course, Cindy O'Loughlin sort of rolled her eyes a little bit, saying, I don't know about that. And I agree. I mean, just because we think things are safe, we don't know they are. But you got to at some point.
I would say it's not the advent of AI that we have to worry about data. I mean, that's been a long time concern. And John, I can't remember. It was like Cole County or like the sheriff. We've had breaches before in government. We had a bad one with the healthcare system in Jefferson City, but we've had them in government entities that like outside forces have come in and hacked certain government systems. And so AI isn't
look at the report of the fake shooting in Columbia on Tuesday. Yeah. They think that had an AI basis. I think it's kind of neat. It's going to be interesting to watch the legislature if Missouri's going to follow the lead of some other states, like some of the West Coast states. Because I know Oregon, they introduced a bill out there when I was doing kind of a deep dive that says AI can't use medical titles like MD or anything like that on the backside of their on the backside of it. And then there's another one in some other West Coast state where they've got a bill that potentially limit or forbid the use of AI generated images or voices of individuals out there.
Randy was reporting last night on a bill that's pending, I think, in Florida. Ron DeSantis was talking about some guardrails around AI.
Well, he's skeptical about it, and so he's trying to introduce, I think, a whole commission and initiative that's going to look at things to really limit it. I guess while I may be skeptical about some of the things as yet unknown that could go wrong and that, we haven't even thought of because it's new, and with new things, it's like new legislation. They usually have to tweak it. It's one of the reasons we're always concerned about too much constitutional manipulation, because once it's in the Constitution, you can't fix it.
It's harder to tweak.
Yeah. But
you end up with compliance issues too, especially with the high-tech AI firms. I know that's the number one on their list.
I will say, for those who want to use it individually, I mean, you heard them talk about the enterprise model, and that, I mean, I for a long time avoided it for anything serious, and then went to a judicial conference where, the audience was lawyers and judges, and they talked about the enterprise model, and part of the terms of service is that, again, it doesn't train the model, all the data is yours, all of this. So after, reviewing the terms of service and all of that, I felt more comfortable.
Yeah.
But I would say also it's pretty affordable. I mean, you're talking maybe $50 a month. So.
And the advantages in productivity it can give you, that's amazing.
Yeah, if you go by the hour, $50 a month is pretty affordable.
Listener text us, says, Stephanie uses the word opportunity, refers to her difference with Randy as being destructive. I don't think I think it's disruptive. I don't know that it will be destructive. But
you asked our two panelists at the very end.
Yeah.
Let's say we're sitting here 5 years from now. You think it would be a net positive, a net benefit, or are we missing something? Are we going to say, oh gosh, we really should have done something different? And both of them kind of were. Yeah. I think Tim described himself as cautiously optimistic. Mm-hmm. He said, ultimately, I think it's going to be a net positive. Yeah. And I'm in that camp.
And I think Cindy's sort of holding judgment and going to see how it happens. But she certainly was supportive of the right development in the right place, in the right way, with, for instance, data centers, really saying, the legislation they passed last year on electricity really should safeguard consumers against having to pay for these things, right? in terms of all the capital expense and even ongoing operations.
Yeah, I mean that was
really important.
That was the directive from Senate Bill 4, and it's played out in the last 6-9 months at the Public Service Commission with folks who regulate these things and regulate our rates. Who've done so for a very long time, and they were charged with, from the legislature, charged with finding a balance between how do we, make sure that Missouri is open for business for this type of development and doesn't shut the door on it, but at the same time protect others. And I think what we've seen is that, they were able to develop a framework and a balance that they feel like is the right path. And I think what we're going to see is Missouri is poised, is in the running, right? Is poised to bring in some of that development while at the same time protect consumers, and that was the goal of the legislation.
I thought a lot about the way you and I parse this issue, and I think it's like fentanyl.
I don't know that that's a good example.
Fentanyl is a tremendously powerful analgesic in the hands of an anesthesiologist, or propofol. When you get a colonoscopy, they put this white stuff into your veins. However, in the hands of Michael Jackson or his doctor, so-called doctor, or someone on the street getting a hold of it, it's deadly. And I think no, seriously, it may be a little hyperbolic of an analogy, but I mean, AI can be deadly. It in some cases has endorsed and encouraged and enabled young people to kill themselves.
In one case.
So I have the case that you're talking about. It's Rain versus OpenAI, and it did not explicitly tell him to kill himself.
But it endorsed it, and it really sort of helped encourage it.
Well,
my point
the entire case is based off of ChatGPT not shutting down and stopping him whenever he said something along the lines of "I didn't do it." But in our generation, we say "I'm going to kill myself" all the time as like. I mean, it's all watered down.
Right,
nowadays.
and when you get a young person who's on the edge, and then the AI says, "Well, you know what? There are things you need to do to make yourself feel better." I'm just saying.
And the issue there is that there are tons of programs out there where now AI is serving as a counseling function. There are AI counseling functions. And so you have tons of people out there who perhaps cannot afford a professional counselor who are using AI to assist them in their personal life, and they are better for it, and that doesn't get reported. And so on the mental health side, again, net positive.
Well, I think existentially we all have to admit that this we've already seen where it starts hallucinating and do crazy things.
I don't think people are the sum of their worst day, and I don't think systems are the sum of human, if you're having a bad day, whether you're talking to a friend, whether you're talking to a computer, whether you're emailing, you were already in a bad place, and it's sad, but I'm not going to blame the tool. I'm not going to blame the gun because you decided to pick it up.
I'm not blaming the tool. I'm saying the tool has and I don't, fentanyl, a bag of powder, it hurts no one, does it, Steph? If it's sitting on the corner of the street?
Yeah.
Come on, it doesn't hurt anyone. What I'm saying is
it can, to fentanyl,
but used in the wrong way, it can be a problem. And I'm just thinking
or prescribed in the wrong way.
AI has a real problem, a real potential to be a problem, just like fentanyl, just like propofol, just like a scalpel, right? So you have to be careful, and we'll have to see how it all works out. The words of wisdom and the opportunity and the optimism of youth on Wake Up Missouri, as we come back in a minute with the Daily DC Rundown.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Available public and private sector data suggests that the outlook for employment and inflation has not changed as much since our meeting in October. Conditions in the labor market appear to be gradually cooling, and inflation remains somewhat elevated. In support of our goals, in light of the balance of risks to employment and inflation, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to lower our policy interest rate by a 0.25 percentage point.
Mr. Excitement Jerome Powell. Here's Stephanie Bell with the Daily DC Rundown.
You could listen to white noise or you could listen to Jerome Powell if you are wanting to get some very deep sleep. No, good news yesterday for the markets. We'll talk more about that in the market report at 8:25. Yesterday, we also learned that the U.S. has seized a large oil tanker off of Venezuela's coast as part of Trump's pressure against Maduro. Apparently, armed military personnel rappelled from helicopters onto the ship in a dramatic operation. Trump says it's the largest one ever seized. Of course, the hugest, the largest, the best ever seen. Venezuela is calling the seizure blatant theft, and the U.S. has increased naval pressure in the region. The tanker apparently has been sanctioned for years, allegedly transporting oil from both Venezuela and Iran allegedly to support foreign terrorist organizations. So that continues. Some other interesting news this morning. Trump is proposing social media screening for foreign tourists. Now, we've talked a little bit, Randy, about how now if you want to go to Europe, the UK has already implemented it. It's headed for the EU later this year, that you have to input a lot of your personal information if you plan to travel. They actually care about who is coming into their country. We don't have something similar, but now the Trump administration is proposing to require travelers from 42 countries to provide 5 years of social media history for U.S. entry. Could you even do that? I'm like, I don't know that how do you even pull that? I don't know. Affected countries include
AI.
Maybe UK, France, Australia, and Japan. These countries are typically exempt from visa requirements, and the proposal is not yet final. There's going to be a public comment period, but it aligns with the administration's continued push to kind of get these stricter requirements in place for students and work visas. Thoughts, Randy? You think that's, it feels there. We've had some instances now in the UK where, they don't have the right to free speech, and there have been people traveling over there who have said something on social media, maybe not even in the country, and they've been captured by the government, and they're saying you said something bad about LGBT, and we're getting you, and I
think it's onerous. I mean, I think that really should be a discussion at the federal level between the prime minister and the president, and say, hey, what do you mean? I thought we had some shared values here.
Now, yesterday we had a little bit of a debate, I think, about the F-bomb and how you thought it was ruining that it was not ladylike of our politicians.
I don't think it's appropriate.
But Marco Rubio is bringing back professionalism to politics. We don't have time now, but we got to talk about that.
Be back in a sec. Stay tuned.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump?
AI, apocalypse, economy, murderous immigrants, nuclear war. And then there's the war of the fonts.
The what?
The war of the fonts. So you may have heard this. Marco Rubio and the State Department is going back to the Times New Roman font as opposed to the Biden era Calibri font. Now, what is the difference? Times New Roman is what we all learned growing up, and it says, watch, spot, run. Jane and Joe rolled down the hill. Right?
I think it was Jack and Jill, but okay.
Oh, Jack and Jill, yeah.
He's being politically correct.
He says that Times New Roman will restore decorum and professionalism. And we talked yesterday about the expletives. So it's okay to drop the F-bomb as long as you do it in Times New Roman and not Calibri, Randy.
Oh, thank you. Now, I think if you're going to do Times New Roman, following that logic, actually, it should be in Calibri. Times New Roman is the fussier font. It's the more traditional and professional font. Thank you. So I never knew what the sans serif, is it sans serif or
it's
sans?
Serif, I think, but
yeah,
sans serif. And serif meant. So sans means
none.
With.
Or with? I thought okay. Yeah, okay.
No, wait a minute.
Is it with or without?
Right.
No, sans means without.
Sans means without.
Thank you.
Sans means without. So sans serif is like Calibri, meaning sort of a plain. It is
like Arial.
It is very. There's no little feet. Like Times New Roman has the little feet on the letters, right?
Looks fancier.
I write my news copy in Calibri.
Okay, yeah,
Really?
and I tend to do that if I'm doing a script or something that I've got to read. I tend to do it that way. So the Biden era administration said that it was more diverse and accessible. And they said that, for instance, people with dyslexia would find it easier to read Calibri than the Times New Roman.
Oh.
Now, and maybe there's something to that. However, I did a little instant poll of one, have a member of the family who has a little dyslexia. That person says it's just hard to read any font. And does say, this is interesting, that person also says it's always been easier to read cursive, which kids don't learn anymore, do they? Are they learning cursive?
Mine have kind of, they a little bit. Not like what we did, but,
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking with John Martin, Representative Martin, at 7:08 because he attended a little seminar here in Columbia, but there was a charter school representative from the St. Louis area who gave a little seminar on that. So he'll join us about that and about the bills he's pre-filed and some interesting stuff, too. So we'll ask him sort of what the thought was about charter schools. But I don't know, maybe in charter schools they teach cursive and Times New Roman in some schools. I don't know.
See, I consider myself a font snob, and I am here for the Marco Rubio back to the serif because I think it looks better, and I think it matters. And so,
why does it matter?
It looks more professional, and I think it's easier to read for most people.
That's your judgment.
It is.
Professional. I mean, what's professional? You're the person that just said it's okay to drop an F-bomb from the podium, and you think that's not unprofessional?
I'm not
Times New Roman for me is harder to read.
I'm not
out
saying,
loud.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm dropping an F-bomb. We have lots of rules about font. Not only, so the funny thing is, not only, the default, I think, when you're typing is size 12, but the courts in Missouri require size 13, which you have to actually type in. So I've changed all my default templates to 13. They want it a little bit bigger.
And Rubio's making it 14.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
We're gonna help
Why
people.
13?
I don't. It's just what
That's
it's
weird.
Odd.
Yeah,
that's the rule. And but years ago, I noticed that the Attorney General's office was always using this one particular font. And as a private practice person, they're in front of the courts all day long, every day. They win a lot. They have really talented attorneys. And I finally I figured out what font they were using. And I'm like, when the judge is reading my brief, I want it to look like the AG's brief. So he's confused. He or she is confused about, is this the state's brief? Like, we expect very good, and I think I can compete with those guys. But, and so I'm like, I don't want him to be able to, or her, to be able to determine just from the face of the text, like think I'm reading the state's brief or I'm reading whatever. And so I switched. So the Attorney General's office many years ago switched over to Century Schoolbook, which is the Century family of fonts, is similar to Times New Roman, but I think better, a little bit wider, and it's the official font of SCOTUS. And so our state attorneys write in Century Schoolbook. It's my default font every day. If you don't have a favorite font, let me suggest to you Century Schoolbook. It's easy to read and it's beautiful.
So Stephanie's saying that she's accusing the judges of font bias, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not. I just don't want. I just.
So if you're Judge Devine or if you're Judge Jacobs, the next time I see them at a gathering somewhere, I'm going to ask them, so do fonts matter?
I think the challenging question might be that are there different fonts that are more appropriate for your chosen pronouns?
Oh. Well, I would like let's see. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like you never want the font to be a distraction, right? I want the judge to be focused on what words I'm saying, what
content.
cases I'm citing.
Yeah.
And so if I am doing something that's kind of weird enough to like be a distraction while they're reading, I want to eliminate that.
Yeah, because you like to win. Yeah.
I love to win.
Love to win. Okay. Danny commenting, speaking of things that are apropos or not, Danny texts us at 573-874-9390. Or you can call us if you have a comment. If you get really worked up about something, we'd love to hear your passion. 800-529-5572. Danny says, good AI program last night. For many of you, maybe you listened to our AI town hall last night. Many of you were in person. We really appreciate you coming out, as we do Senator O'Loughlin and Tim Marshevsky, because they were out on this busy day, a busy time of year, and we appreciate that. Danny says, good AI program last night. Do not like Slavic term czar. Director of AI is more American. I didn't get the idea that Tim was crazy about czar either.
No,
I don't think
he's
he likes
not.
that.
He's not.
But he was very gracious. He put up with it.
You know, it's radio. We're on a clock.
Yeah.
It's easier than
I got
title.
my tang tungled a couple times. Director of AI and innovation. You know, AI czar. I like that. It's just easier.
You should have asked AI to come up with a new title for him.
That's funny.
True.
We should totally try that, John. No, but from Paul, who regularly texts us, who I met in person last night, and Ken, who's a regular listener, who I saw last night. It was fun to like get together and for some folks, like just reconnect with friends that I know, listen, and that I see regularly, and then put some faces with some names that like I've come to know through the text line. So
one of the gentlemen we'd sparred a little bit on the text line about my notion and theory that the tariffs have had a lot to do with why Trump is now suppressing prices. Not all, but had a lot to do. And now Trump is having to make up with a payment, the so-called farmer bailout. He said, hey, it's all in good. I like when we go back and forth. Oh, Nathan may have a candidate for one of the texts of the week here. If you're focused on chosen pronouns, your font is wingdings.
That's good. Oh my God.
That's a good one.
We're thinking.
I like that. Good one. Boy, it's early, but Nathan's on top of things.
Nathan's on it.
That's good. I like that.
Oh, goodness.
All right. So I don't know. I agree. It probably, I don't know. It probably is a little bit easier to read, but I do get the feeling of more form. It's sort of like the King James Bible versus the Living Bible, right? Totally different feel, right? When the thou and the thy and everything, it gives it a more grandiose feel to it, right? When you read the King James, and you wouldn't read the King James in wingding font, you'd want.
Well, I don't think you can actually read wingdings. I think it's all like weird symbols and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I bet Drake can. Can you read wingdings?
I mean,
Drake?
talk to any company, right? Like companies have specific fonts that even if it's not their company name, like in their logo, when you see that font, it brings back recall from that company, and they spend millions of dollars deciding what font to use in their logo and in their company marketing, right? I mean, even though it sounds kind of silly, it brings up emotions, right? Like some fonts can feel kind of like aggressive. Some fonts can feel fun and playful. Like, you don't really, it's kind of in the background, right? It's not something that we think about a lot, but fonts can give you a feeling when you're reading about things, and you know, in different contexts, you might want different feelings. Certainly when you're dealing with the government, you want an air of like professionalism and seriousness.
It's interesting. Have you ever found yourself sort of font doom scrolling? You know, when you're making a slide show, let's say, and you want a title slide, you know, I find
I
myself
don't do that
sometimes
anymore.
getting
I just
lost.
use AI.
Oh boy, there you go. I figured it was coming. Yeah, well, pretty soon you're going to stop thinking, and AI will do the thinking for you.
Thank goodness. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately.
Next will come the drooling. I mean, it's like, I don't know. They would just take away everything. Where will our initiative come? We did have some discussions about that, about how really the notion that, at least at present, that AI will take over our thinking for us. I mean, really, we still need to prompt it. We still need to direct it. We still need to refine it. You know, it's not yet sentient. Not yet.
I mean, I think there's, you know, again, like, we're not asking it to replace us, but from somebody, again, I bill by the hour, right? And there are certain things for especially large companies that I can't bill for. Like, you know, it's in the policy. I can't bill for what could be performed, like as lawyer time, for what could be performed by a secretary, right? And so I wonder, as we move down the path, you know, are there going to be more parameters of, like, again, me creating this Excel spreadsheet that could be easily done with AI? Will they have a prohibition and say, we're not going to pay you an hour to input data into a chart that AI could spit out in a minute, right?
Right.
If I'm the client and I'm the business owner, 100% I want my lawyer to be using AI for those types of things, because I'm paying by them literally by the 10th of the hour. And so if they can, you know, and so I think, like, we're going to see it, not only right now, I think there's this hesitancy. I think we're going to get to a point where companies are saying, if it's doable by AI, then you should be using it, and I'm not going to pay you to do things that could be done by a computer.
That's what Tim Marshevsky said yesterday,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
we're going to ask people to use it as a tool. I talked to Ken Zellers, who is the head of the Office of Administration, and I was really, I told him, and this was not patronizing him because I was talking to him, but he's really very, very proud of the work they've done in the last few years to really modernize Missouri's administrative system across all of the agencies that are, in a way, his customers. And in turn, we are the agency's customers.
It was fascinating to hear the work that they're doing, and really impressive. Something that I wouldn't normally expect when I'm talking to people in state government.
Really excited about it, yeah.
Oh, super impressive.
And I think it's fair to say, I just recently renewed my doctor's license on a new platform this year. It turned around real quickly, and I said, wow, that's amazing. And so I think all of us may have had the feeling that Missouri maybe was a little backwater a decade ago on this kind of stuff. Not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah,
he said people around the country are coming to him asking him, how can we emulate you? Yeah. Now, maybe the legislature can go to people in Texas and Tennessee and Florida and say, how can we emulate you? And eliminate the income tax. You know how rage bait is the phrase of the year? Psychologists have been studying it and how it manipulates you. Stay tuned for that on Make Missouri Healthy Again.
It's Wake Up.
Psychologists are realizing that because of the proliferation of social media and how social media platforms use algorithms that tailor, of course, what you see, and they tailor it because they know what you're likely to engage with. So it becomes a self-fulfilling and a vicious, not a virtuous cycle in many cases. Doesn't necessarily mean the content that'll make you happy will be what you see. It may be when you start interacting with something that gets you enraged and you start clicking and interacting and talking with and then, going to other sites, and that it just fuels the fire. And so the algorithm learns from any engagement, whether you put a thumbs down or whether you put an angry comment. That's AI.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this played out in the last campaign cycle, and I think we're far enough removed now I can say it publicly. But, I would put something nice out about the candidate I liked, and there was a whole army of, keyboard warriors who would say nasty things. And I'm like, do you not know how social media works? And I'm thinking every time you say something negative, the algorithm doesn't know if you were saying something negative or positive. They just know that it was something to engage with. And so all of my tweets where they would, glom on and say nasty things would get thousands and thousands and thousands of views. And if they would have just not commented, it would have fallen into the ether, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, if I'm on the other campaign and I am paying these so-called professionals who don't know how Twitter works and who I'm paying, and their whole thing is negative commenting, which is just promoting the other side's tweets, like, immediately fired. Like, I found it hysterical. And so anyway, there's a little bit of
and it turns out that psychological studies show that negative emotions tend to proliferate, and negative engagement proliferates much more rapidly and deeply and broadly.
B.F. Skinner, Psych 101, isn't it?
Right. Well, and think about it. I mean, isn't that the old journalistic axiom, if it bleeds, it leads?
Bleeds, it leads. Sure.
Right?
Well, and think about it. I mean, even in your personal life, like, if somebody does a good job, like, maybe you'll say good job. Like, you're so much more likely to be critical than to, like, remind people, like, hey, that was really great. Like, it just... Right.
Which is why I think it is true that there's not enough gratitude to go around. There's not enough recognition, not enough thank yous, not enough, hey, atta girl, atta boy, to go around. On the other hand, I think it's different online than personally. I mean, maybe that's just because we haven't learned yet to realize that what they say is that it's difficult often for people to discern when someone posts a negative comment. Is that truly their feeling? Is that their worldview? Is that their passionate, deeply held belief? Or are they like maybe one particular right-wing podcaster who used to be affiliated with Charlie Kirk? Maybe,
or the Even Human.
Maybe just to get, or is it Even Human? Is it just to get more engagement? Because clicks you can monetize, right?
Fair.
And so how do you know that? You have to be discerning. And I think that means take a big, deep breath when you're rage-baited before you speak, before you write. Unlike Drake on this show, when I say, go Chiefs, go. And then he goes, no, I don't like the Chiefs.
I get more mad about NIL, Randy.
John Martin, Representative Martin, coming up in a few. session about some of the plans he has. And John, welcome into the program. We were talking a little bit yesterday about a seminar you attended concerning education and in particular charter schools. Tell us a little about it.
Sure. Yeah. Good morning, Randy. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the University of Missouri School of Public Policy. They had just a seminar just kind of describing, charter schools. Obviously, charter schools are coming to Columbia. Had a very good presentation. There was a representative there from Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed with their charter schools currently in Kansas City and St. Louis. Missouri Charter School Association was there. And then a researcher from St. Louis University just giving, data on the success of charter schools. So it was a good, very good, seminar, and I thankful that they did that.
We've talked with representatives of the charter schools. Noah Devine's been in a couple times, and maybe you can just help for folks who sort of view the charter schools like many of us think about AI. It's like, oh, I don't know. I'm a little scared. This seems like something pretty new. I don't know. What are some of the myths maybe that you heard about that maybe were uncovered, that maybe you knew are myths, but some of the uncertainties that people may suspect but really are not the case with charter schools?
Sure. Yeah, there were several, I think, myths that were dispelled yesterday. One would be just the standpoint of just because you're for a charter school doesn't mean that you're against, another public school. And so that means, for example, like in Columbia, one of the big questions is, okay, we've got Columbia Public Schools. Why do we need another public school in the form of a charter? And so the basic answer there is basically school choice. Mm-hmm. And so it gives parents the opportunity to say, okay, Columbia Public Schools currently, the work that they're doing, okay, that's for me. But for other parents may say, no, I like what the charter school has to offer, and my tax dollars, I'd like to see tax dollar, opportunities there for my students. So it's about student success and school choice. And I recall that Noah Devine told us that really, as opposed to what you might think, these are actually public schools. They're not private schools. They're a different type of a public school. They're just funded differently, right? That's right. Yeah, it's a public school. Another thing that's very important with DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, they have a rigorous application process. Explained yesterday takes about 2 years to get all of their applications in, and the board. They described it as basically a volunteer board that runs this. They've got a lot of flexibility in their education to meet kids' needs. And it's not. I asked the question, "Hey, is this a for-profit type thing?" And the DESE rep said, "No, it's not. It's not for profit. These, they're not making profits. So you got volunteer board members. Basically, you get the focus of school choice and helping students, to succeed."
John, as long as we're on education, something that's been discussed in past sessions is continued funding for the A+ scholarships, and also the whole debate we've seen over open enrollment. What do you think will happen with those this year?
Those will be brought up, and so. But if I kind of see this, John, the charter school in the mix. If open enrollment is not, continues to struggle, then there's the aspect of charter schools again giving the options of parents, their tax dollars used. So I think that it'll be brought up. We'll see where the debate lands.
You also serve, or you have served on the budget committee. There's been some talk like, okay, we're going to have a tighter budget year next year, but I know just in the last month we had a pretty big bump, so folks are feeling a little bit more optimistic. What are you anticipating? And for Boone County, are there specific projects? I know we've had some big wins with the training center and some other things and getting some of those state dollars returned here locally. Is there a big project on the docket for this year?
In Boone County, there's multiple ones. We've got several of the cities that I represent: Centralia, Hallsville, Southern, Ashland, and Hartsburg. In talking with them, there's some infrastructure projects, some sewer projects, things like that they're looking at. That working trying to work with DNR, and obviously we've got all the in my district, since I have the whole length of the county, Stephanie, the needs of Highway 63, a lot of those crossovers. And things like that. And so we worked with funding with MoDOT and continue to, push safety and good infrastructure on our roads. Talking with 44th District Representative John Martin on Wake Up Missouri. I'm Randy Tobler, Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, and Drake Whitman along, of course, as always. And John, you're on the education
Elementary and Secondary Ed Committee, you have pre-filed a bill to take a pilot program on agricultural education statewide. Tell us about it.
Sure. Yeah, that was a pilot program that concluded a couple of years ago that was successful. And we're seeing organizations like Missouri Farmers Care. They've got a curriculum called Ag on the Move, and you got FFA and 4-H groups, things like that have been doing this type of work already. We had that pilot program. It's local. You got Southern Boone Schools there in Ashland. They've got that that learning garden that takes place already with elementary kids. Columbia Public Schools has been having some of the ag students from the university in summer school teaching some of this ag curriculum. And so it's a way then of making this curriculum available, and having it available and putting it in all of our public schools, that opt into that. It's not a mandatory, but it's opt in.
Let me drill down on that a little bit more. I know you have a degree in political science and economics as well as theology.
Yes.
And we're talking about agriculture, and we're talking about the economy. We just saw that announced federally a quote bailout because of some of the damage that some government policies have had to do. I think most would agree on farmers, and so they're trying to at least make it a little more right. Well, I heard an analyst in the agricultural realm say, agriculture for many means big tractors, soybeans, corn, wheat, cotton. I guess I'm maybe missing one or two. In this type of a program, is the importance of diversity in our agricultural pursuits in terms of broccoli, peppers, whatever. Is that part of the agricultural education experience that you think would be important, or is this more just traditional, big ag, for lack of a better term?
No, I think it's more that I think it's both. That's one of the exciting things about the elementary ag ed is that you're getting some really hands-on experiences. Maybe it's an outdoor raised bed garden that the school can do. I know, like at Southern Boone in Ashland, they do a great job. The kids go out there currently, and they talk about Make America Healthy again. They're out there growing strawberries and okra.
That's great.
And the kids are out there maybe tasting something like that for the very first time.
Yeah, and we have one of the best farmers markets in the land in Columbia. I mean, it's just fabulous. There's another great one in Springfield, by the way. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
incredible. I know one time I was cooking up some carrots, and the kids are like, "Did you burn these carrots? Why is this carrot so dark?" And it was a purple carrot, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, it's a purple carrot." And they go, "Oh, rainbow carrots? We grow those in the learning garden." And they ate those up so quickly.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that's exciting about it with the curriculum, as far as starting, at a young age, it just helps the kids understand, soil and the beauty of, God's creation and our good farmers that work hard.
You bet.
They're preserving the soil, conservation, good growing practices, healthy living, things like that. Quality agriculture that we feed the world in many ways, and so it's a great way of introducing them at a young age. And it ties into science very well. Think of soil and worms and all kinds of things.
There's a lot of intersections there.
Right,
John, we're hearing reports of a push for potential data center, maybe 2 over in the New Florence area, and we know the county leaders in Montgomery County got an earful of not so positive comments about that. Brian Hauswirth this morning reporting there's a potential for one in Booneville as well. What's your take on that?
Well, I know I had an opportunity just to be at your guys' AI meeting, a little bit last night, and they discussed that a little bit about the data centers there briefly in the introduction. But we just have to take a look at it, obviously, with the energy demands and water demands and things like that. I was at a meeting Tuesday morning in Moberly with the Northeast Missouri Principals Association, and so they were talking about that. One of the principals there was from Montgomery County that had been at that meeting the night before. Pretty challenging meeting, and obviously there you have issues of tax values and then the increases for the tax base, things like that. So all those things have to be considered. Energy price, costs, things like that. I think I'll have to look at first before I'll make a final decision.
Before we let you off the hook here, and boy, we do appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much. What about taxes? The governor has made it clear he wants to make a push for zero income tax. What that looks like, I think, is yet to be determined. Property tax are always on people's minds. People are paying more and more for energy, for groceries, for everything else. Of course, that's part of the national conversation. They'd love to save a little bit on their tax bills. What's going on in that realm in the coming session?
Sure. Yeah, one of the potentials there is what's called the property tax. As far as corrections in our property taxes, what that'd be called, would be taxation by subclass. Right now, when you got your property tax, you've got your agricultural, you've got your residential, you got commercial, things like that. And right now, when there's an assessment in one of those, we maybe have a 15% raise, which we had in Boone County this year. I think it was 14%. Right now, they take the average of all those subclasses, and if it doesn't hit the Hancock Amendment, then you may have a pretty good rise in just one of those. And so they're basically applying the Hancock Amendment, which puts limits where you've got to roll back that levy. You got to roll back the levy and make it the Hancock apply to each subclass, not all of them in aggregate. Where you get an average of all of them. And so that would then have some help with where your tax bill doesn't rise as quickly. They've got to roll back.
Yeah.
Your valuation goes up, but they have to roll back. So we got to balance that. Obviously, you've got at the same time we got our support for our schools and our fire our fire districts. So all that's got to be balanced. That's something on the docket that we're looking at.
That's good. A little bit of relief that way. It's good to hear. Well, thanks for covering so much today with us on Wake Up Missouri. We look forward to a really vigorous and active session. Look forward to talking with you about that the next time we get together. Thank you, Representative John Martin.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
All right, there he is. Interesting stuff. I don't know. Well, if we're going to cut property taxes and we cut income taxes, maybe AI will make up inefficiencies and we don't need to spend as much. Stephanie referenced that last night at the AI thing. I think you're right. It could actually happen. Be back with more. Hey, how about old guys returning to the NFL? Got a good story there when we come back.
It's Wake Up
Monday, and then Tuesday, he was in the hotel thinking it over. He called us. Me and Chris were in the office. Said, "What do you think?" He said, "Dadgummit, let's freaking go." And so we said, "Let's do it."
Did I hear a dadgummit? I did. Whenever I see a dadgummit, must be on my algorithm now. Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri. You know, I've become a fan of Tim Burchett because every little selfie reel that he takes, walking down the steps of Capitol with his Carhartt from Tennessee, you know, good old boy, kind of a demeanor. Carhartt. I love it. He's like, "Dadgummit, there's so much corruption up here. I can't make my skateboards. I got to have a business plan, hire a lawyer, and go to ethics, and they're all over me. And yet I can inside trade and make $600,000, nothing, no questions asked. Dadgummit well, I heard a dadgummit." And this was from the head coach of the Colts, Shane. Is it Steichen? Stitchen? How's it pronounced? I don't know. Anyway, this guy, Phillip Rivers, he retired in 21. Drake, weigh in on this. And apparently they've had a series of quarterback injuries, right?
So there's a lot to go into this. One, there's this. It's called the Luck curse for Indianapolis. Ever since Luck got out, they haven't been able to have a consistent quarterback.
Yeah.
They finally got some hope with I can't think of his name right now.
Daniel Jones?
Yeah, Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
Daniel Jones. He's a stud. He came from New York, and he was terrible there, and he was playing great. And he broke his leg, so that's not great. So they brought back Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers, who apparently had a really good record there. I mean, right? Really had some great numbers.
Well, and their backup quarterback, they had this Leonard guy. He tore his knee up, so their backup is out as well.
They don't have anyone. It's like, who's playing? It's like the peanut guy is playing quarterback.
Yeah, and on top of that, at the beginning of the season, they were debating whether it's going to be Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
He has been on their team, and all three of their quarterbacks are injured. They brought back Phillip Rivers. And a little fun fact about Phillip Rivers, he signed a one-day contract with the Chargers, so he'd retire a Charger.
Oh, okay. Did he?
That's not going to happen anymore.
Was he with the Chargers for most of his career?
Decent amount.
Did he ever play with the Colts?
I'm not sure. I don't know what Phillip Rivers has all done.
Well, there was a lot of sound from the press conference, and he said that I watched the
Rivers. Rivers played for the Colts, 4 or 5 years ago.
He said, I think it was at the end of his career. I don't know. But he said, "I watch the Chargers and the Colts every day. I'm still engaged in the game. I love the game." Here's what he said about Daniel Jones. A little bit of sound from Phillip Rivers. He's 44 years old now.
Daniel, about him being so gracious about 17, that was certainly meaningful to me, and obviously didn't want it to be like this. Again, and didn't ever think of anything like all this happened so fast, but him being gracious and saying, "Shoot, heck yeah, go for it."
So he wanted to wear number 17, and he's going to do that. Now, they said in one press release that he's going to be on the practice squad, but does that mean he's going to practice and then be the starting quarterback?
Well, you got to make the active roster. Start out on the practice squad.
He said before he accepted the job, they talked to him like on Friday or Saturday or whatever. They talked to him several days before he accepted the job, and he told them, he said, "I've got to go and get in the building and just throw the ball a little bit and see what it feels like." And he said, he sat on it, thought on it, and a couple days later they called him. And he says, "Freaking yeah, let's do it."
Think back to our era. They're making a big deal out of him being 44. Remember old ancient George Blandon?
I remember.
Like 47 when he threw his last pass in the NFL.
I think it's great. Well, there's a controversy in Colombia about a guy from the Netherlands being deported. We'll talk about that when we come back on Wake Up Missouri. So welcome back into Wake Up Missouri. You know, immigration is one of those topics of our times in many different ways. And Stephanie, John, Drake, there's this case that does make you almost get sympathetic. But then you think about, well, I don't know. The story of Owen Ramsing, Ramsingh. He's lived in the United States since moving here as a child from the Netherlands, was initially issued a green card as a child of a U.S. citizen in 1986, and it's been renewed since. But according to DHS, Homeland Security, he was detained because of past convictions for possession of marijuana and cocaine. And apparently he was, as a 17-year-old, charged with drug possession, pled guilty to the next year to attempting to commit a felony, and I think that was for cocaine. The following year, records show he was cited for having less than an ounce of marijuana in Nebraska and fined $100. Family wrote that they expect him to be back in the Netherlands. He says, I do have my father in the Netherlands. I am thankful for him, but it's impossible to imagine not having my Columbia family by my side for the rest of my life. That hurts more than anything. His wife, Diana Ramsing, said she and her daughter plan to move to the Netherlands to be with him. Representative David Tyson Smith, according to ABC 17 News, says he feels for the Ramsing family. Quote, President Trump's reckless deportation policies have not only destabilized a local family, but our community as well. Now, I don't know if we like Representative Tyson Smith, but has this issue destabilized the whole community? Do you feel unstable more than usual, Drake? Your mic's not on, brother. No.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't on. Sorry. That was my bad.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, a little bit of coke here and there. I mean, why not?
I mean, it's tough because, again, what was it? Possession of less than 1 ounce of marijuana.
Well, but the previous year, that was for a repeat offense.
Cocaine.
That was for a repeat offense.
I'm going to channel a little bit of Jennifer Bukowski here is for all of us, you're never stupider than you are at age 17, right? And, people should be allowed to make a mistake or two, to own up for it, right? And not be penalized the entire rest of their life for being a stupid teenager.
Apparently, he worked as a sound and lighting technician, and one of the co-workers at the Blue Note said, for 5 years, quote, he just took care of everyone around him. When you think about someone else who's so genuine, so hopeful, so full of heart, being treated this badly, obviously he's going to be emotionally scarred. It's abusive what this government is doing to people. I guess the question really surrounds the law. Section 237A to B, triggering mandatory removal proceedings, says that certain criminal convictions, including drug-related felonies, render non-citizens deportable, regardless of how much time has passed or the perceived, quote, minor nature of the offense. So you could argue if we bend the rules for sympathetic cases like this one, I mean, where does it end? It's sort of the slippery slope argument. And I think on top of that, because it's a tough case, no doubt. He was a young man when this happened, right? He was 18. And from all reports, he's really not had any problems after that. But I guess the question is, do we hold visitors to our exclusive membership club to a higher standard?
I think it's a good reminder that, it's a privilege to be here, right?
Yeah, right.
And I agree with that, but I have a hard time with this because it seems like whether it's, the person driving the box truck, killing people on the highway, running over the girl in St. Louis. I mean, we've had lots of these instances where we don't find out about these people who are here, and they're here not on a green card, they're here illegally, and they've been let go time and time and time again, even after some violent offenses. Mm-hmm. And so if you're this guy, you're like, A, I had a green card, B, I had some minor drug things, I'm not currently committing any crimes. It's not like you picked me up because I was engaged in a criminal enterprise now. Mm-hmm. Squaring those two things. And I'm not saying I agree that it makes
it's a tough case. It really is.
It's yeah.
Now, Darren says, are they following the law? If you don't like the rule of law, change the rules.
That's
and
fair.
but here's the thing. I think it was just recently you talked about prosecutorial discretion, right?
Yeah.
It's a reality. The question is, should prosecutorial discretion accrue to foreigners? Or should they be expected to hold a tighter standard? I mean, I think you could argue that, right? I mean, sorry, you need to be held to a higher standard.
Well, and here there really wasn't even, I don't think, any prosecutorial discretion. I'm not sure. I don't practice.
No, it wasn't.
I don't practice in immigration law, and so I don't know if there's any discretion with respect to these mandatory deportations. But I think he pled guilty. I mean, there wasn't. I mean, obviously they would have had a little bit of discretion whether to charge it. They did, and he pled guilty.
Yeah.
So
no, I think on these laws, when it comes down to the drug deportation laws, those are mandatory, even for green card holders.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, I've been in situations where I talk to the government and I say, hey, given the fact, these facts are, there's all these other contextual things, and what's happening to whoever is really bad. Can you help me out? And they said, sometimes they look at you and they say, we wish we could. We agree with you, but the law doesn't let us, right? The law says what it says, and it doesn't give us any room.
And it sounds like this is a lifetime ban from reentry, although after 10 years he can appeal for that. I don't know.
I think to use Jen's phrase, and the last time we talked to Jen about this case at length, I think she used the phrase aggravated felony, which pretty much kicks out, the leeway thing. I mean, that knocks into the mandatory thing. And I think it was the only exception I think Jen talked about was if this guy at 17 had a misdemeanor single possession for own use of marijuana, under an ounce.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not uncommon for the law to kind of segregate crimes into different buckets. And Randy, you'll be familiar, and I think the way that I'm most familiar with it is with professional licensing, right? And most professional licensing boards have statutes or regulations. And for minor things, you're not going to lose your doctor's license for a traffic ticket, but there are certain crimes which are a total bar.
Yeah.
And so typically they call it about crimes of moral turpitude. Yeah. And, if your crime falls into that bucket, you can do other things. But when you're talking about being dishonest, being fraudulent, being violent, there are crimes that fall into certain buckets, and they say it doesn't matter really how long it's been. It doesn't matter what the circumstances were. If you pled guilty, you were convicted of that. You
automatic exclusion.
There are some buckets like that.
And we were mentioning my professional license, and I renewed it, and it was a smooth. I had to enroll in a new platform called MoPro. So that was a little registration thing. It's a one-time deal, different now than it was last year. It turned around so quickly. But one of the questions on there, because for doctor's license, if you're delinquent on your taxes, you don't get a license.
Yeah.
So one of the questions was not, are you delinquent on your taxes? Are you a Missouri resident? Are you subject to Missouri taxes? And I kept looking for the next line that said, are you late? Apparently, I don't need to answer that because Ken Zeller knows if I'm late. And apparently, I'm not late because I got the license renewed, But
there's the thing now in Missouri law that you can't declare your candidacy, right? If you're delinquent on your taxes.
Is that true?
I'm
sure.
I
don't know.
I think
my question was on this, and I don't know if it's been addressed in any of the news stories, was he was a non-citizen, but he did hold a green card. And your thought is, as long as he was here, why didn't he apply for citizenship?
You must be reading you must be reading the text line, John. That's what someone said. Why didn't he ever apply for citizenship? He had over 30 years.
Yeah.
Ewan says, note that these immigration laws could have been modified or repealed at any time, but we're in the hands of the same party, but they did not do it. So here's the deal. I think that someone else on the text line has said, well, what about this case? I guess they just visited Vermont and said that there was a dreamer college student went to visit her family in Texas and ended up all the way back in Columbia. Now, that is, to me, we need to change that. I agree. Boy, is this going to get me in trouble? I'm not going to say that I agree with a former president who's of the Democratic stripe because
you've already said it.
No, I said it with about Biden once, but you didn't let me expand, and then Drake turned it into a promo and took it out of context. So I'm not going to say that. I do not think dreamers should be punished. I think dreamers are an absolute carve out for this whole thing. If you come in in a little, what do you call that? Where moms carry their babies in front of them, like a little kangaroo pouch, a little papoose. If you're a little 1-year-old, and you're in a mom's papoose, she crosses the Rio Grande. She's here. You're here for 20 years. You should not. You didn't do that of your own volition. That's the difference. You had no say in that. You may have, quote, broken the law technically, but that you had no input into that. So I think Dreamers should be given a carve out.
If you want to talk about, like one of the texters said, hey, laws can be changed and all. Steph, remember the case of the guy from Sedalia, Jeff Mazansky, who was jailed for, gosh, I don't know if it was life, but it was decades for marijuana possession with the intent to distribute and all. His kid, his kid got a big campaign, and then I think Jay Nixon exonerated him. But the guy did almost, I think, 25 years behind bars over marijuana, and he was real young when that happened.
Here's a great twist. We've been talking about AI on the heels of our AI town hall last night. This listener texts, what about according to ChatGPT, Owen Ramsing maybe didn't disclose the drug convictions on his green card applications. His penalties per ChatGPT are consistent with willful fraud misrepresentation. Now
that's more serious.
But that's not in the official reporting.
I have not seen
that's not in the reporting.
But
that's ChatGPT.
That's the same. I mean, that's the same for a lot of professional licensing. People are embarrassed. They don't want to disclose a MIP when they were 18. And there is a tendency to not want to disclose that. But if you lie on the application, it is worse than saying, hey, I messed up when I was a youth. So if that's the case, I mean, I think, I have more problems if that is actually
if he lied
true.
about it, that's another problem.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why he didn't, I don't know, but he had to get his green card renewed. Maybe that's why he didn't apply for citizenship.
Because he would have had to disclose.
Another.
I don't know what that application looks like.
I asked Grok. I just like Grok because I like the name. What is that? What is it? Masters of the Universe. Help me with this. There was a serial that I love that movie series. Guardians of the Universe, Guardians of the Galaxy. Who's the little tree that grows? Remember the
Groot.
Groot.
That's all he says.
That's what I
Groot.
like. That's what I like about Grok. It reminds me of Groot. Grok. No, there is no public evidence or reporting indicating that Owen Ramsing failed to disclose his drug offenses on his green card application or subsequent renewals per Grok. So I don't know. John, what do you have coming up?
Stephanie Bell, listen up. Celsius, Rockstar, Monster, Java, even Liquid Death, beware.
Caffeine blowout coming up. Stay tuned.
And that would be all. Except for this.
Talk about a jolt. Many people reach for energy drinks when they need an extra boost. 64% of Gen Zers leading the charge. But docs warn the beverages can cause heart problems, anxiety, insomnia, headaches, and other issues. In a study published this week, a fit and healthy man in his 50s treated for extremely high blood pressure and a stroke. Docs say he reported numbness and weakness and determined the unidentified man indeed had a stroke. They discovered his blood pressure was 254 over 150.
Wow.
You know, what's normal, Randy? 120 over 80 or so?
120 over 80 is goal, or less. Yeah.
He confessed he was crushing an average of 8 energy drinks a day, 1,300 milligrams of caffeine. Docs say 400 milligrams is about max, and your average cup of coffee has about 100 milligrams. And study authors said the combination of caffeine, high sugar, and stimulants like guarana in the energy drinks raise your heart rate and your blood pressure. Tell it to this guy. He's like he didn't kill him.
Yeah, when you see guarana, think caffeine. Oh, it's natural. No, it's caffeine.
It's getting harder and harder, though, to decipher. I mean, I've been on the road. We have an away basketball game like every other night. And so we've been eating a lot of like gas station dinners. And I have the kids in there and they're like, oh, I want this drink and this drink and this drink. And, you know, they're all flavored or whatever. And I'm having to flip them over. And I'm like, it's not one of those, you know, because they say, especially for kids, some of them have way too much caffeine.
Yeah.
But I find myself having like to check and double check. They're like, Propel water, and you know, you think Propel, like, okay, that's one of those caffeinated ones, but apparently maybe not. Like some of them are just electrolytes, and then some of them have the caffeine.
Yeah, most common thing I see with caffeine is a little bump in the blood pressure, or from a dangerous sense, arrhythmias, just irregular heart rhythm, and that can be for people who already have underlying heart disease. That can be a real problem.
I mean, I remember hearing about it like in the 90s when, I mean, like now I think people dial their soda back a little bit, but I remember like adults in my life saying like, I've been told to dial back the Diet Coke because I'm drinking 9 a day and it's causing me to too much stress on my body.
Let's see, the story had an addendum, said energy drinks currently on the market in the U.S. contain anywhere from 70 to 300 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah.
And
that's like 3 cups of coffee.
Well, yeah, and you recall like some of these folks, I think it was Panera that was doing those like weird juice refresher drinks, but people were confused and they didn't realize how much. I mean, they're like spiked like that, and it's like people. I don't know that somebody might have died, but anyway, there were several lawsuits about it. And they've dialed back the caffeine, is my understanding.
The other day at the C-store, I saw something called Neuro Energy. It's gum, caffeinated gum.
Yeah, I know they have caffeinated gum, like they have nicotine gum and all of that kind of stuff. So,
and they have caffeinated pouches, like the nicotine pouches. That's just straight caffeine right into your bloodstream.
Caffeine, actually, you know, there's some evidence that a little bit of caffeine before a workout enhances a workout. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's good. Like, I mean, we have a little touch of Caldi's coffee, maybe once in the morning, twice or 3 times.
That's why you do like a scoop of pre-workout, right? Most of that pre-workout has hydration, but also a bump of caffeine.
Yeah.
I know, being at the coffee shop with my son at the time who was working some kind of construction site cleanup, and he got at the coffee shop, got the 4-shot espresso drink.
Oh, man.
I was like, man, you'll be up till this time tomorrow. He's like, yeah, whatever.
You know, I mean, whenever you're driving, and that's usually when I get energy drinks, is whenever I'm on the road a lot. What you got to do is you got to get smelling salts and crack them. That will wake you up and not have the caffeine downside. So there you go.
Or take Amelia's old shoes from what was that story?
Yeah, her wet soccer
shoes.
Yeah, that would have cleared an entire room.
Just put those. Yeah. Hey, we're going to talk with Fox News reporter Jonathan Savage. Should we ban social media for the kids? It's on the table. 808. hot topics of our time is technology, its influence on us, our children. Oh, they're so easily influenced, and sometimes with tragic outcomes. Australia's decided to do something about it. It's being discussed in the Senate. Jonathan Savage, at Savage Tweets on X, and London reporter covering the UK, Europe, and the world for Fox News Radio, joins us now. Thanks, Jonathan, for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hello. Good morning, Randy.
Where are you talking to us from today?
I'm talking to you from London, from the British capital today. This is where I am based. And it's been it's coming up to mid-afternoon now. It's been a beautiful, sunny, crisp winter day.
It's beautiful. Well, it's great to hear you. And automatically, I don't know what it is, but with the accent you have, it always has a lot more credibility. I don't know why that is. I just have to tell you, we love hearing that accent. Hey, I have to ask you though, Australia has really taken a real quantum leap in terms of trying to regulate this. What's the word on the street? What led to it? Was it a particular triggering incident there? How did that come about, and what has been the public reaction?
It's interesting, actually. It kind of came out of nowhere. It came from the premier of one of the states in Australia, the premier of South Australia. And he had read a book about the dangers of social media and how it was harming kids. And he decided to do something about it at his state level. But then suddenly that got the attention of the national government in Australia, and the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, kind of made it his crusade. They had this big consultation, public hearings, with people giving evidence about the effect that social media had on their lives, on their kids' lives, hearing from the families of people who'd taken their own lives. And it has passed this law, passed very, very comfortably with the support of families as well. And now it's come into force. Under 16s in Australia banned from the major social media platforms.
What about in flipping gears here a little bit, the Trump visit with the king and the U.S. tariffs and all? What is the rank and file's take in the UK on the current tariff situation?
I would say there's obviously been some trepidation because the United States is a big trading partner of the UK, especially since Brexit. We've tried to improve trade relations with the US, and there was some concern that these tariffs would have an impact on British companies and British economies and so forth. But on the other hand, Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, who came into power about 18 months ago, he has tried really hard to have a very good personal relationship with President Trump. And one of the reasons for that, no doubt, is ensuring that the UK gets the best deal possible. He invited President Trump on behalf of the King for a state visit. It's the first time a US president would have had 2 state visits to the UK, because President Trump's a big fan of the royal family. So I think those personal relationships, many Brits hope, will end up working in this country's favour.
We're talking with Jonathan Savage, Fox News Radio correspondent. Going back to the Australia ban, I think about, I don't know, maybe I've had a misperception of what I thought Australia culturally thought about freedom of speech and general liberties. That was major eroded back in the COVID days when we saw people yanked out of their houses, a guy going out to get the mail and he didn't have a mask on, and next thing you know, he's in the pokey. Jonathan, have Americans maybe had a false impression that Australia is a relatively free speech environment and that's been turned on its ear, or has that always been a lot more restrictive than maybe we thought at a high level?
Well, look, I think most Australians feel that they have a fairly good freedom of speech. It is a modern democracy. It's a functioning democracy. They have a lot of freedom. There's no constitutional freedom of speech protection, but they do have court decisions which recognize an implied freedom of communication. But it's not absolute. It's limited by anti-terror laws, racial discrimination laws, obviously libel and defamation. When you look at countries around the world, most people would not consider Australia to be a particularly difficult country in which to express yourself. It's not, it's not like one of these dictatorships or anything like that. But the fact that it doesn't have a constitutionally defined freedom of speech perhaps does have an impact. But it does have a free media.
And what about the UK itself? I was traveling and spent a week in London in September, and being in conservative media, several people kind of commented, hey, have you seen all the arrests lately of social media posts? Like, you might be a little bit more aware about what you're retweeting or saying on social media. I mean, you're a journalist. Do you have any concerns about, what you share on social media with the current context?
Yeah, I think there is a sort of changing landscape here, and there's almost an adjustment going on. Again, the UK is not a country where people necessarily feel they have to watch their mouth too much about what they're saying. But there was a case recently where someone who in the UK became very famous for writing comedies, but since then he's now more well known for being part of the gender critical movement. He was arrested very publicly for something that he had said and done on social media. And just this week, we've had a former soccer star given a suspended jail sentence for his social media posts about various people. Now, a lot of people would say these were very offensive, these posts, but there has been questions about really should we be giving people criminal penalties for posts that are offensive and not necessarily inciting violence, which I think a lot of people would say is where you would draw the line.
Well, and you talked about folks in the UK watching their mouth. We need you to weigh in on the debate we had yesterday. Randy reported on a study that said Americans are more vulgar, I think, than France. And I said, I don't know that I agree.
It was about politicians and dropping F-bombs from, in public speeches. And I said, I don't know, it just doesn't seem very apropos. What's the climate in the UK?
I don't know what the bleep you're talking about. I'm kidding. I think a lot of people have been pretty shocked at the way President Trump is loose with language. You see in rallies, he will drop an S or a BS here. Yeah. He talks about Israel and Hamas. Dropping an F-bomb in that conversation. Yeah. And I remember seeing that on TV in the broadcast live on breakfast TV on the BBC, because that was a live feed, and the presenter saying, just want to apologize there for the language used by the President of the United States, which is not a phrase that you expect to hear and you would have heard from other presidents. So you don't hear British politicians swear as much probably as President Trump does. I don't know about other U.S. politicians, though.
On the other hand, I've always been heartened. I love it. I find it as great reality TV when you see the arguments and the discussions in the House of Commons. Boy, they get all fired up and worked up, but only to a certain level, right? Rhetorical energy without the expletives, right?
Yeah, it's a different atmosphere. In the House of Commons, the opposite sides are face to face across an aisle, and they are two swords widths apart. That was what they decided way back in the day. Oh. And there are things you can't say or do in the House of Commons. You can't use a prop, for example, as you might see in Congress. You also can't call someone a liar. Oh. That is completely not allowed. That's considered unparliamentary language. Wow. If you said that, you'd have to withdraw it or you'd be kicked out of the chamber for a while. But what people might have said is, I suspect the right honourable gentleman is being economical with the truth. I think someone got away with that.
Economical with the truth.
You also can't use a prop on the floor here in Missouri. Now, we were talking a little bit about kids and social media, but we had a really interesting discussion last night. We had an AI town hall. And so as we see these bans coming in on social media, like internationally, we talked a little bit last night about whether, the U.S. at the federal level or at the state level will start implementing regulations on AI. Internationally, are you seeing more of a push? You think these social media bans are the first step and then them eventually regulating AI?
I think that absolutely that is the case. There are countries that have come out and said that they are looking at Australia as a test case. Countries as far apart as Denmark, Brazil, Greece, Malaysia, Singapore. The world is watching. Australian governments say that they know the world is watching, and they believe that countries will follow their example because they believe this is going to work. And even at Fox News, we've heard from a senator from Alabama, a Republican senator, who believes that this needs to come to America. So there are people in all sides of the political spectrum who are looking at this right now.
Well, Jonathan, they have opened that can of worms of regulating what everyone takes for granted as a reality, but maybe bringing it back a little bit, especially for our children. We'll continue to follow your reporting on this. We thank you so much for the inside story on everything from the House of Commons to social media regulation in Australia. Thanks, Jonathan Savage. Appreciate you.
Anytime. Take care.
All right, you too. Here's Katie Britt with a little of her thoughts on that.
America, let's put it up now. In America, 59% would support a similar ban here in the United States. Is this coming to America's children, Senator?
It needs to. And I think when you look at what's happening right now with our kids, ages 13 to 17, they have said they actually feel more negative, feel more depressed. Almost 50% of them admit to that after being on social media. Look, the Surgeon General has said, the previous Surgeon General said, kids shouldn't be on social media until they're 16. Now is the time to act. But the truth is big tech has a grip on Congress, and Congress's inaction is feckless.
Ooh, wow.
About that.
That's an F word that I was glad didn't go the wrong way. Feckless. And I heard another,
it's a good one.
Either a senator or a representative yesterday afternoon, similar discussion, say they've spent $20 million. I don't know if it was one company or more, but they have one lobbyist, big tech, one lobbyist for every 5 senators. And they are pummeling them to try to avoid restrictions. I'm telling you, this is a conversation that's going to happen. Can we regulate our way out of this? Is this a cultural thing? I wonder what Stephanie Bell says.
I mean, do you want me to start pulling the records about which principals, which businesses have how many lobbyists in Jefferson City?
I thought you were going to go, it's parents' responsibility to control their social media.
It is, but yeah. I don't think it's a knock to say that people are smart enough to hire lobbyists to protect their interests.
Yeah.
I would say they're being economical with the truth.
Economical with the truth.
That's so good.
I think the only way you're really going to get at this if you restrict the usage of smartphones by children. Give them the phone that your nursing home grandpa uses, just with the big keys where you can dial a number.
Oh, mine were laying it on thick the other night because, of course, one had to wait till he was 13, and now the younger ones, I was like, well, I didn't know what door you were coming out of. You know, these schools are massive. Yeah. Like, well, this is why we need a phone, Mom, because then we could have told you. Oh. I said, don't start with me.
No, your kids are not going to win. That's not going to happen.
Nope.
Morning Bell Market Report coming up.
It's Wake Up
Morning bell heard. Market report now with Stephanie.
The long-awaited Fed meeting and Jerome Powell in his, in the only way he can do it, announced rather unexcitingly that we finally got the interest rate cut that we were looking for. He, as we know, is on the way out, but the markets responded quite positively to that news. Yesterday, the Dow was up 1.05%, the S&P up 0.67%, NASDAQ up 0.33%. I think the only place where we were losing a little bit was in utilities. Everything else was up pretty big, including amongst the leaders, consumer discretionary, materials, and industrials. Now, Randy, you've been kind of complaining about Trump putting his name on everything. And here
not
comes
kind of complaining.
Really complaining.
Yeah.
Very excitingly for me and for the country, we've just launched the Trump Gold Card. It was about 30 minutes from now. The site goes up, and all funds go to the United States government. It could be a tremendous amount of money. It'll also be able to have people like this keep, as an example, just one example, there are a lot of examples, people just buying them. It's somewhat like a green card, but with big advantages over a green card. And companies are going to be able to go to the Wharton School of Finance, the Stern Business School, Harvard, MIT, wherever you may get your students.
And he's just talking about what you can buy your way into the United States of America now.
I mean, he likes money.
It's all transactional with this guy, isn't it?
The website is trumpcard.gov. It promises U.S. residency in record time. Individuals will have to make a $1 million contribution plus a $15,000 processing fee. Corporate sponsors can pay $2 million to sponsor a foreign worker. Right now, they're saying the application process will take just weeks. You do have to do a visa interview and submit the required documents, and they will receive lawful permanent resident status as EB1 or EB2 visa holders. And I think coming soon is something even better than the gold card, the Trump Platinum card.
Oh, no.
For $5 million.
Oh, man.
Still $15,000 to process. And that will allow you 270 days in the U.S. without being subject to U.S. taxes or non-U.S. income. There's a wait list open, but the launch date hasn't yet been detailed.
Does anyone have a problem with just being able to buy your way into the United States of America? What about good people of sound mind and good faith and quality credentials who don't have $1 million just laying around?
Well, I mean,
and because you have $1 million laying around, does that mean that somehow you're an extraordinary individual? I can think of a lot of people with a lot of money laying around that are dirty, rotten scoundrels.
I mean, Joe Biden was just letting people run across the border, and we got $0 from them.
Oh,
so at least now I'm getting
that's a straw man argument.
What's he going to do with all the money? Or is he going to put it back in our pockets? I mean, am I benefiting?
I don't. This just 573-874-9390. It's a good discussion. I mean, now Howard Lutnick said in his statement that we're going to spend. So a company spends $2 million or an individual $1 million to get this gold card, green card, whatever. And we're going to spend $15 million vetting them. Or was it $15,000?
It's $15,000 for the processing fee.
We're going to vet them. Well, why don't we spend $15,000 doing something for Americans?
But net, I mean, $1 million minus $15,000.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump?
Wake Up Missouri. Now, with all due respect, once in a while, when you have a brand, or at least a...
Is that the same as bless your heart? I feel like something mean's about to come out of your mouth.
When you have no. When you have a narrative that's been painted about you because of your general stance. Okay, we're generally conservative, sometimes more libertarian, sometimes more traditional conservative, meaning some restraints on activity based on cultural realities. Some people on the left want to just because you are who you are on every topic, they automatically want to put an assumption on what you're going to say or how you think. So one listener says, if there were an Obama gold card, you guys would be saying it's the most disgusting card you've ever seen. Everything is okay when it's Trump. Let the drug lords buy their way in, then Trump won't need to pardon them. And I said to said listener, who otherwise normally has some rational thoughts and listens more carefully, hey, don't put me in the you guys bucket. I'm against this. I agree with this caller or this listener. I think that this is only going to this will open the gates for many people with nefarious motives and extraordinary means, meaning drug lords and people who are laundering their drug lord money through people maybe that are mules in this country carrying a green gold card, a green Trump card. You see what I mean? I just think that it's not, but my point here is, not going to use the person's name because maybe he's doing this just to get fame. Because everyone in the world listens to Wake Up Missouri.
He's rage baiting you, Randy.
I'm not rage, but do I sound rage baited?
Lots of our favorite
Yeah, the
hobby.
rage bait worked, Randy.
Yeah.
You can't win with this bunch.
I'm telling you, John, there's just no mercy. Holy cow. I'm trying to make the point that I think we many times, we on the right, those on the left, all of us, we have our biases, and that includes assuming that just because you see a name and someone with that name who generally has opinion different than you is always going to be, in your mind, wrong. That's not true. That's just not true. It's patently false. So Alan reminds me, whoops, there you go. Said his name. There you go. Alan, 5 minutes of fame. Alan reminds me, Alan, don't listen carefully. I'm against this card. I don't like, it's like the blue, what does a blue check mark on X mean anymore? If you can buy your way into it, it
means I'm better than you.
It means you're richer than me because you bill hourly and I don't. Right? I mean, that's all it means, that you've got more means or you're willing to spend more means than I am.
Maybe it means I'm stupider because I'm paying all this money to Elon.
I'm still butthurt yesterday because when I was commenting about AI, you said, well, if people with half a brain did their research, as she looks at me with those Stephanie Bell eyes.
I think I said an IQ over 50. But yes, if people with half a brain would read a report about Columbia from Genevieve County, which doesn't exist, they would know.
Okay, a moment of collegiality on Wake Up Missouri. I just received a text from said listener that said, yeah, you did sound like you were against it. My apologies. Now, it takes a big liberal to say that.
1-0 Randy. There you go.
So that means it's not about winning.
It is though.
It's definitely
about winning.
It's about the truth. It's about everything right, virtuous, moral, upstanding, and all American, and the right way to go. Right, all what's best for everyone. That's what it's about.
And the Colts still have some spaces on the practice squad as well. So keep that in mind.
Should I suit up?
I don't get super worked up, but I did have to send this to Drake because before the morning bell, I typically check the Wall Street Journal, and I always check on what the most popular news is, right? Have you seen the most popular article on the front page of the Wall Street? Well, I don't know if it's on the front page, but it's on the front of the homepage, right? They always list 5 stories. One is the most popular. Do you know what that most popular headline this morning is?
What?
The downfall of the Kansas City Chiefs. As I'm wearing my Chiefs gear this morning.
Drake's going, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah.
I haven't read the article yet, but I was like, wait, this is what our business people are waking up and reading about this morning?
Yeah. Well.
So sad. And Patrick Mahomes has a picture of Patrick Mahomes looking all sad.
Well, I think sports fans do live in denial an awful lot. It's like, no, they can still make it. If the moon and the sun and Saturn and galaxies far out into space line up and everything's perfect, it's not going to happen, guys. Not going to happen.
But like, I wouldn't say it's like a downfall. Like, okay, we're not having a Super Bowl year. There's a lot of teams who haven't had a Super Bowl year in a long time. So like, what are we, like 3 out of the last 6 years? I don't know.
True.
I mean,
it's been like the past 5 years, you guys have made the Super Bowl, and now you're not making the playoffs, which is a pretty big fall off.
I love the way you say "you guys."
Yeah, no kidding. That's us guys, buddy.
That's us guys, dude.
Don't loop me in.
If you want to be a Tobler card carrying member of this show.
Oh, now you've got your own card.
Oh yeah.
Do I have to pay for it?
Yeah,
Can I just pay for it?
And only you can afford it, Stephanie.
It's red and gold.
But no, really, what do you think? Okay, there's things about this card we need to unpack. Okay, let's say you're vetted, whatever. I heard Lutnick sounded as though, listen to what he said here. Listen.
Individual, it's $1 million. And for a corporation, it's $2 million. And as the president said, for a corporation, they spend $2 million. They can then have an employee, full vetting, the best vetting the government has ever done, $15,000 vetting to make sure these people absolutely qualified to be in America. Absolutely qualified. And then the company can keep them here.
Wait a minute. One of the things is a path to citizenship in 5 years. Okay, I think that's a green card provision too, right? Isn't it after 5 years you can apply for citizenship? I believe. I'm not sure there's anything.
I think that's right.
What? It's always like I always find myself with the Trump administration, well, with anyone, but especially with Trump, you get all this fanfare and it's going to be rosy. What about, I want the details. Are these people now, if Ford Motor Company, which I don't think it would be Ford, it would probably be big tech, because now everyone is Donald Trump's big tech bro and he's whatever. Okay, that's fine. But if Zuckerberg pays $2 million, gets some guy from India, from China, whatever, to come in here, he just said that you can keep them here. What are they now, slaves to Zuckerberg? What is the...
I think that was...
Well, no,
maybe...
I want to know, what is the enforcement? Listen again. I heard it. Did you hear it? Maybe it's AI.
The company can keep them here.
How does the company keep them here? It's like, I paid your $2 million, put on those shackles. I'm keeping you here.
I don't think he was implying that. I think he was perhaps distinguishing, because this is for like priority workers and high skilled workers, the EB1 and EB2, not just skilled like laborers, right? And so I think so for this one, as opposed to the platinum card one, I think you get permanent resident status, which I think means, I think he's just saying like these are long-term folks. I think the platinum card is going to be more temporary. It says it would allow you 270 days in the U.S. without being subject to U.S. taxes. So I don't think
then the company can keep them here.
He's just saying they're like I think he's saying it's an investment by the company. You're going to invest in somebody, and they can be a long-term employee for you.
Can I tell you about the number of medical students that I know of a hospital that paid for the medical student, paid for the residency, and then they put in their 2 years to pay them back. People that get government grants to work in hardship areas in the medical system, and some stay there. But then many of them, after they've paid their duty back, they move into the metropolitan area, and it's not really helped rural health care. I'm just saying,
I wouldn't be
what is the
surprised
enforcement
that
mechanism
there are some
here?
strings attached in a private contract between the employee and the business.
Oh,
and just like they're like companies often offer like relocation assistance, right? And they'll give you a big sum up front to help your moving expenses. But again, I think usually that's tied with, well, if you decide to quit or like you leave after so much, you're going to owe some of that back. And I wouldn't be surprised that there are, if you're the corporate sponsor for somebody and you're covering that upfront cost, that you find a way to protect yourself.
I'm putting my robe on here. First of all, I'm going to object as opposing counsel. Now I'm going to put on my robe. Okay.
Okay.
Objection upheld. That's speculation, counselor.
Sustained.
That's speculation. Well, upheld, sustained. Oh, she's got to correct me. You all know what I mean. You all know what I mean. Upheld, sustained, same deal. That's speculation.
I don't think it's speculation. Well, I think it's the probable outcome. If you're a company and you're going to pay $2 million for a single employee to come in here, I think you're going to want some protections for yourself. It's just good business practice.
Then the company can keep them here.
You're really bothered by that. I think it was. I think it was an inartful articulation.
Oh, they were economical with the truth, were they?
There you go. Randy, you were talking about, medical professionals coming in from other countries, because we see a lot of, of international docs here in mid-Missouri and all. And I know a challenge that some of the hospitals have had over the years is the Filipina nurses who come in en masse oftentimes to hospitals to fill in. We saw it during COVID a lot with the traveling nurses. And a lot of those people, they come in, they do their initial due diligence, and then, like you said, they bombshell out of the area, and the hospital's right back where they started
right back where
from.
they were. It's just a Band-Aid on the problem. And again, I guess at a fundamental, and look, there are some awesome doctors that are, either their first generation or whatever later. One of which who just read my MRI, Dr. Ashraf over at Emerald. He's clearly not, I think he may be from, I don't know where, but great guy. So you don't want to exclude people of great talent. But by the same token, you have to ask, when there's a money thing involved, rather than just, I want to be an American, I have the credentials to be American, whether I'm whoever, shouldn't we reform our system to where we only admit people that we need, which relates to the question, why do we really have that much of a dearth of so-called highly skilled talent in America?
Well, I mean, part of the knock on all the immigration stuff is that we're having to foot the bill for their health care. Like, at least if we're going to import these people, let's make sure they're rich people so we're not footing the bill for the rest of their junk. I mean, that seems like more of a consistent position than the one you're currently arguing.
And then if you pay it, well, Stephanie, if you hire someone to work in your law practice and you hire them because they're really smart and they got that British accent which really holds sway.
I love it.
The judges don't admit it, but it holds sway.
That's from the meeting last night. Data science and AI. We need some high-tech workers in that field.
Yeah. Ellinger, Bell, and G. And here we go.
Then the company can keep them here.
There you go. You just
I
keep
don't
them here
care if
forever.
I'm hiring someone from the UK or somewhere else. My goal when I'm hiring someone is to keep them.
You just lock them.
I don't want to churn.
You just lock them in the law office and you let them out to go to the courtroom and bring in some Uber to have them eat. All right. You can keep them here. Back with leftovers when we come back.
It's Wake Up
I want you to listen.
But here's
to this.
my breaking
Erica
point on
Kirk's
that.
On scorched earth.
Come after me. Call me names. I don't care. Call me what you want. Go down that rabbit hole. Whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this, no.
You know, I have to say it. I've never seen you like this.
No, this is righteous anger because this is not okay. It's not healthy. This is a mind virus.
Well, Erica Kirk popped. It was all over for her. She's been restrained. We talked last week how on the Charlie Kirk Show, they said they're going to be having a real pushback event. A blogger a podcaster who formerly was in TPUSA at its early inception and really was professionally partnered with Charlie Kirk in the ascension of that organization. Stephanie, you said you saw her at CPAC. I mean, she was the darling of many, and many people really still listened a lot to this said person, implying that everyone in the organization was behind it, knew about it, wanted to replace Charlie Kirk. Then it's the Zionists, it's the Jews, it's the Israelis. I mean, it's all over the place. And finally, Erica says, enough. We can't keep reliving this, and it's horrific for these people.
It's awful. And, I'd been kind of tuning it out, but seeing the chatter on social media, and so I decided to go tune in to see what is this gal really saying.
Yeah.
And it was hard to follow, and it, like, on its face, it just seemed insane. Like, it just...
She's lost her... She's off her rocker. I don't know what's happened to her.
And
it's
I'm
a
like,
shame.
how could anyone listen to this and think it's credible? Does
anyone really think that there was a massive conspiracy within the organization to? This says something. And when she said it's a mind virus, I really think so. And it just, I don't know, John, as a reporter, what do you think about all the conspiracy theories around these kind of things?
Well, it kind of takes me back to the conspiracy theories that surrounded 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center, kind of how that grew a life of its own, and they had to do all the in-depth research and all. And there's still factions out there who swear it was an inside job.
The alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk and assassin, alleged, is making a court appearance today. Drake?
I do have to fight for her, the person we will not name. She made a claim that Macron's wife, the Prime Minister of France, is a man and transitioned to a woman or something along those lines. And I can see where you can get that mixed up. French people nowadays, you can't tell the difference. So, I'll give her a little bit of leeway there. But, yeah, she's a little crazy. Just a little bit.
I don't know. It's just sad to see Erica Kirk and the entire body of that organization being dragged through the mud. She says there have never been so many death threats, kidnapping threats. They have never seen the likes of that for her and other people in the organization out of this. So, I don't know. It's sad to see. John, what's on your leftover plate?
Well, how about an upside report? The Missouri team that lost to Kansas over the weekend at the T-Mobile Center back on the home court tonight as we take on Alabama State.
Good. And we should mention, Stephanie, the big vote. There's parallel votes, right? One for the Dems, one for the Republicans on health care.
On health care.
Subsidies and reform bills. And neither side has the votes to get either thing done.
It's going to be a standoff. We'll have it all for everyone tomorrow, an update.
Christmas only 2 weeks away. The anxiety level's rising. All right, we'll see you tomorrow on a Feel Good Friday. Have a good one.
Bye.